Hearing the words is faithful, it felt like a voice whispering, I haven't left you, even when you can't feel me, because he's always there. He's always around us.
Can't see grace for what it is until you need it most. God feels so close to us in those moments. I need you, Lord. Be my shield in the middle of the war. Down.
The third hour is here. Holy Spirit appear. Guide us in all truth and in your ways. May our hearts always rejoice.
Tell him, like, that is God singing us. That is how he feels for us. That is how he cares for us. It's unconditional.
Come on down now and change the atmosphere. Holy Spirit, do your thing. We might not know how, but we ain't gonna fear. Letting you bring eternal change. Move us today.
Welcome back, guys. This is another episode of the third hour, and we're going to kick this episode off with our new Christian music for the week. Guys, if you missed last week's episode, the way we're going to do it now, we're not going to do the top 5. What we're going to do is each one of us have wrote down songs out of the songs that were released this past Friday, and we're going to kind of share the songs that touch us and songs that we like personally. And I think that way you'll get a good taste of some of the songs. We don't know what each other has picked. I don't even know what Chelsea's picked. So we might come back and we all three have the same 3 songs or 4 songs or however many. But I think we'll have some different ones, and we'll kind of just jump in and share our thoughts on them and share thoughts on each other's songs. We'll go from that, transition into the songs that were released that we did not, have in our list. And then we're going to go into a little bit of a discussion period. We didn't have a guest for this week, so we took this as an opportunity to kind of grow in a topic with one another, just kind of bouncing stuff off of each other. In no way is this like instruction manual. Like if you get on here and you're like, oh, these guys have it all together, this is what I need to do. It's not that. It's more of us kind of growing and learning in the topic that we're going to discuss later. And also, with the community that we have, listeners, feel free to message us with some things that you all do. Well, I'll touch on the topic later. I don't want to get into it now, but just keep it in mind, stay in touch with us and connect with us and tell us what you think about the discussion when we get to it. With that being said, let's go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to go ahead and start and throw out a song, and then we'll bounce over to Chelsea and over to you guys. I first want to say this is awesome, us 4 being together. I know I guess the time before last, I was able to be on here with Rusty and Mariah, but Chelsea wasn't here. She had COVID. So it's cool having us all 4 together because we've all been so close with one another you and Mariah through all of school and me and Rusty through all of school. So it's cool that we're able to do some kingdom work together. I don't know, getting a little emotional thinking about it. I love it. But anyway, I'll go ahead and kick it off with my first song. And the first one that I went with, it's more of an upbeat song. I wouldn't say it had like a tearjerker aspect or anything to me, but it had me wanting to dance around the room and all that. I really love this song. And a few weeks ago, this same guy dropped a song off of his album. This is his debut album, and it was Let It Rain. And it was actually my number 1 song, but it never made it to anybody else's list. So he had released this album, and this is another song off of it. It's called The Journey by Vic Lucas. I kind of had to go outside of Spotify to find out a little bit about Vic Lucas, and what I found out that he was born in Nigeria, he's raised in South Africa, and he was discovered in the United States. So his musical tastes are pretty diverse, as his upbringing was. Vic started putting out music independently in 2017 under the moniker The Vicious Vic. Late 2021, he decided to relaunch his brand with his Vic's music had over 7 million streams across platforms, and his song Enough charted for multiple weeks on the Billboard Christian AC charts. So this song for me, for me, it's just about the journey. Like it, trying to think of the words. It's like, God ain't done. That's what it's. God ain't done. The journey has just begun. It's just a beautiful melodies and rhythm of the song's beautiful, but the message is really motivating too, uplifting. I think sometimes we think that we come to that moment of salvation and we think that it's done, it's a high that we're never, I mean, of course, it's the best moment of our life, but in some ways I think as we walk through our journey, it's like, how can I get that back, that high back that I had when I was just experiencing God and in his presence like that. And I think it's a journey. Like, still, God ain't done with you. You're still going to grow as you continue in that walk. That's kind of what I got from it, but it was a very uplifting viewpoint, I think. Else, I'll kick it over to you.
Okay. So the first one I'm going to talk about is actually really kind of surprising because it's
I love, I'm going to interrupt you, but it's the one that you told me about earlier.
yeah.
I just think it's like, what is it? People say it's like vinegar in your mouth. It's kind of like all that stuff that you said that you didn't care much for him, and now you got to sit here and brag on him. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's not that I don't like them. But anyway, it's No Survivors by Jeremy Camp and Skillet. I don't really lean towards like Skillet and that type of music, but surprisingly, I really like the song, which I know, and I don't have a bio for Jeremy Camp or Skillet. I just don't think it's really needed, but Jeremy Camp actually this is his song, right? And they
Yeah.
just remade it
Together.
with Skillet.
Yeah.
My favorite line in this song is, "You told me it's your battle, God, so I need you to fight, because if I'm gonna live, then there's some things that need to die." I like that. You can't be made new again unless your old self dies, and you have to surrender everything to God. And I think that this song's a good reminder of that.
It's definitely, it leans, like for Jeremy Camp, it leans more on his harder side of things that he's done.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's a great song. I guess I'll kick it over to you guys. Excited to hear your songs.
Did you have that one on your list? Yeah, I actually had No Survivors on my list too. I'm a pretty big Skillet fan, so yeah, that's a really good song, and I think Chelsea kind of hit the nail on the head there. Some things that I've been struggling with is, I guess, letting all the old things, since I have, gave my life over to Christ. You've got to let, all the old things die. And I think that song really resonated with me. And then, of course, I think that it was really cool that they added Skillet onto that where they're on tour together. So I think it's a really good song.
And Jeremy Camp Skillet for the local people are going to be in Johnson City November 8th, I think, together, and with We're Messengers. So,
Oh, I didn't realize they were with him.
yeah, for anyone that is local listening to us that are interested in that concerts in Freedom Hall, I think. Mariah, what did you have?
So the first one that I have, most of you guys know, like my sound is kind of like the indie guitarish, like acoustic sort of sound. So loved all of these songs, but I really loved Thank You Jesus by Edgar, and I'm going to probably say his last name wrong, Sandoval Jr. So when I looked him up, what he has in his bio is that he's a Cincinnati-born artist whose musical journey began in 2013, crafting heartfelt songs on his guitar and sharing them on YouTube. After high school, his passion led him to Los Angeles, where he pursued creative opportunities and put college on pause to chase his dream. When his family relocated to Seattle in 2015, Edgar began writing top lines for European producers, building an international network while finishing out his degree. In 2018, he co-founded the radio pop duo Cape Lions, earning millions of streams, little interest, and ghostwriting placements. It says here that after graduation, they intervened when Edgar met his future wife, Emily, through a Spotify curated playlist. Encouraging her to post covers on TikTok would ultimately lead to her breakout moment. I Love You Baby by Surf Mesa. So that's his wife. And then in 2020, amid the global pandemic, Edgar returned to TikTok with a viral experiment called Music with Edgar. His song Stuck Up skyrocketed to number 4 on the US viral chart, making this a defining moment in his career. And then following that success, a season of personal refinement, he embraced a new mission to give modern Christian music a fresh voice. So he creates songs that fuse pop sensibilities with faith-filled storytelling, using his platform to glorify Jesus Christ and inspire generations seeking authenticity and hope. So I thought that was a cool little background information story on him, but I just really loved the song. I thought it was really upbeat. It kind of had that like attitude of gratitude about it. And I think that sometimes, like, what it really brought me to mind of was like sometimes it seems like when we're so busy, it's really hard to like take the time to like let your mind rest and like really listen to God. But I've noticed that like the best way for me, at least, to, like get into the presence of God is to like tell him thank you. Like, thank you for my husband. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for my job, my home, safety, and all of that. And it is like, as I'm thanking Jesus for all that he's done for me, then it's like, there, boom, I'm right in his presence and I'm able to worship him, the way that I went about intending to. So I love that song. I thought it was really fun.
I really
Yeah.
like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the perfect way to I watched I'm trying to think who it was that had said it not long ago. I think it was like Cliff, and Cliff and Stewart that does like the college preaching thing, kind of like how like Charlie did, but like they're usually like out in the college, like walking around.
Oh,
Kenneth,
yeah. He's an older man?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
he had a
I enjoy
question.
watching him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's great. Him and his
he's
son is.
awesome.
But he had a question one time that was like how to get in God's presence. He said there's probably different ways, but the way that he has found the most effective for him personally was to start by thanking
Thanking
God
God.
and being
Yeah.
of gratitude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good advice.
So my next one is "You Always Win" by Fresh Start Worship. I'll go ahead and get into their bio real quick. It says, from the hit maker that introduced you to KCJ, Bry, Kalante Gavin, and a host of other new artists, a music executive, Marquise Boone, now introduces you to Fresh Start Worship. This pure and refreshing group of singers' debut single, Mention, took the Faith Arena by storm, and the song became a top 2 radio hit. Mention, whenever they released it, was the lead single to this group's self-titled debut project of the same name, which was recorded in 2017 during 2 Sunday morning worship services at Fresh Start Church. Fresh Start Worship has evolved in 2024, and the group has expanded and become more diverse in sound, culture, and group members, and they are excited to roll out their new sound and look um, with this song, and I guess in the future. This song for me kind of brought me back to this verse. Um, Deuteronomy 24, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you the victory. And for me, it's just such a I think I've used this a lot in other episodes. It's kind of like a fight song in a way. I think sometimes you just need those songs at the beginning of the day to know that you're going to have battles come your way. You're going to have like struggles and temptations. And sometimes I think we feel like we lack the ability to fight it or the strength, I guess, to fight that stuff. And in this way, with this mindset of listening to this song, it's like, you always win. He always wins. It's his battle. Give it to him. He's already won, but he continues to, in your battles that you have daily. And I just think that's, for me, it's a picker upper when I feel like that I have something like, if it's a test or if it's a conversation I gotta have, if it's, I don't know, whatever it is that I have coming up in that day, or even going on just in my life, like issues and stuff, I can give it to him and just be confident in that he always wins. Uh, that's where my heart is with that song, and I think it's a beautiful song. It's another one that's not quite as upbeat as The Journey, but it's still more like an upbeat worship song. So I really liked it, and I think whoever takes a chance to listen to that song, I think it's going to do something for him.
Sorry. My next one is Quick Fix by Amanda Nolan. And her bio.
I have it.
Oh,
That's one of mine
you
too.
picked her too?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, with her soulful tone, honest lyrics, and long life passion for songwriting, Amanda Nolan is steadily leaving her mark on Christian music. A Pennsylvania native, she began writing, recording, and performing at just 11 years old, pursuing every opportunity to share her voice. Amanda experienced firsthand the healing power of music and faith in Jesus during a season of deep mental health struggles. After being diagnosed with OCD, she walked through some of her darkest days. It was in that season that she surrendered her life fully to the Lord, who brought restoration and revealed his calling for her to use music as a vessel of hope. Her raw, emotional sound draws comparisons to Lizzie McAlpine and Adele, resonating deeply with audiences both online and in live settings. In 2023, Amanda was named the winner of the Unsigned Only Songwriting Competition in the Christian category. By 2025, she was opening for one of the biggest Christian artists in Christian music, biggest artist in Christian music. A moment that confirmed the reach of her ministry and depth of her calling. And it just says that she's based out of Nashville. This song to me, it's just I got to thinking about how often, instead of trusting God, how often do we just want it to be fixed immediately? Kind of like what Pastor Brandon preached about today, and their struggle and waiting. Um, and it's easy to turn to the worldly things to feel like it's going to fix you, to kind of fill those voids. Ultimately, God's always the answer, and He's the ultimate healer.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that a little bit before I kick it over to you guys. That was also one of my songs. It was the last song that I had that I wanted to throw out there, and this song for me was kind of like a self check. Like it made me think of some things um, that I had went through in life to where I was like trying to quick fix maybe my problems that I had that were deeper, but then also even stuff now that I can try to work on. But I had a verse that I wrote down for this one. It was Proverbs 3:5-6. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight.
It's my favorite Bible verse.
Is it? Well,
Hmm.
that's kind of cool how he works. And I think that I was thinking about a little bit what Pastor Brandon was talking about this morning too, about being in tune with God. And I think of it in that same way is that um I think when we're trying to fix issues with worldly things, like you mentioned, like, we're probably not in tune as much as what we need to be. And our path isn't as straight as like what this Bible verse says. And I think when we lean on Him more for guidance and for help when we're needing it, I feel like the path it's more straight. I feel more confident in it. I trust it more because I can trust Him because He's, the same now as He's always been. When I'm sitting here trying to medicate the issues, when I say medicate, I'm not talking about little medication, but like just like
Yeah.
supplement the issues. But, just throughout my life, I shared a little bit about my testimony before, but, throughout my life, how many times have I went to like the quick fix, whether it been alcohol or looking stuff up I wasn't supposed to, or even more recently, I would say, and I think that I was able to find my answer in Jesus. But I think that I still need to like keep that attitude of not looking for quick fixes because I do it a lot with caffeine, and I bring that up because in the interview with Justin that we had, that was one thing that he talked about that he had struggled with, and it like directly impacted his vocal cords. For me, I got to where I was like solely dependent on caffeine to. I felt like it helped me get in God's presence. Like I felt like I needed it before I went to church. I felt like I needed it before I tried doing schoolwork. I felt like I needed it before I go to work. And I think having it every now and then is not bad, but it was to the point that like that was what I felt like I needed. Like it was the reason why that I was able to prosper for the day or in the moment. And all that is for me anyway was a quick fix. And I think that I'm kind of searching for something more sustainable, at least in that area overall in my life, I feel like now that I have that through Jesus and not through those other things, but it's always a constant, ongoing fight. But sorry, guys, I just want to touch on that one as she went. So I'll kick it over to you guys.
Okay, so the next one that I have on my list is Every Breath Yahweh by Long Hollow Worship and Meredith Andrews. Their bio is kind of long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. They are church based. Long Hollow Worship is the sound of a revival taking root in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Born out of Long Hollow Church, our team of worship leaders and songwriters has been creating music for nearly a decade. And we've always tried to lean into what God is doing within our local body. Our heart is to meet our heart is to meet people right where they are, giving them a truly authentic song to sing. And then it kind of talks about like the history of their church just slightly and their worship team, how from 2023 to 2025, it really feels like they said that God has like breathed new life into their worship team. The songs that they They have come from their reflection. There is a reflection of God's power as He breaks the bonds of sin and offers hope for the hurting all around us. It says in July 2025, our church gathered to capture these new anthems during a night of worship, and the same spirit that has been fueling the revival showed up as our church family sang at the top of their lungs for the recording. And then it has that they invite the global church to join in what God is doing in Middle Tennessee and beyond. We're experiencing a genuine move of His Spirit, and we want to honor that with this worship that is raw, honest, and alive. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, it seems like 2025 has really been a game changer for the entire world. It seems like the world is really just getting set on fire for Jesus. But I really like this song, and I think that it takes me back to like some my roots as a career is nursing. So I read a long time ago that like as we take a breath in and out, like our lungs, literally, it sounds like Yahweh. And so that's actually true because I remember whenever I read that, I was like, there's no way. So as I was listening to my patient's lungs, the inhale is like Yah, and then the exhale is actually like way. So our body is like, it really just kind of to me proves like that God has knitted us together, like to glorify Him. So I just think that this song really highlights that. And it talks about like literally with every breath that we take, even without us knowing it, we are glorifying God by saying the Yahweh. And I just thought it was a really beautiful song. Really just took me into like the mindset of like a deep worship, being able to worship God. So that's what I liked about that one.
Great. That's great. Rusty, what do you have for your next?
So my top song this week was Resolutions Day by Day by Chris Renzema. I think that's the way you pronounce it. He actually didn't have an artist profile on Spotify, so I don't really know much about him. But as far as the song, it's pretty much talking about we're coming up to the last of December. It's kind of the song takes place the last day of December. And each year we all think, resolutions. What are we going to do next year? What are we going to change about it ourselves? And he's just kind of talking about what if I wake up and I still feel the same, And I think, and then he kind of goes into, you've got to work, you got to change a little day by day. And I think that is the key thing in life, period. If you look at it each day, try to do a little something better each and every day. That is the key of getting better in anything. You want to get closer to God, it's day by day. You're not going to, know everything. You're not going to know, the Bible inside and out in one day. It's a day by day. It's a relationship with Him. I just think that's the key. And I really enjoyed this song for that. And it's up tempo and it also is a little catchy. I'm one of those people, if it's a catchy song, it'll pull me in really quick.
I really liked that song too. That was almost on my list too.
Renzema is he's a pretty big artist. If you haven't listened to Narrow Road by him,
I love that song.
yeah,
I
it's
like that one too.
yeah, beautiful song.
So everyone else has heard of him except for me.
Are you sure there's not an artist profile?
There is not a artist profile. I think I took a screenshot of it and it literally just says Jesus songs.
Well,
Oh,
some of the bigger ones
Yeah.
don't, like Forrest Frank doesn't.
No.
I think it's just happy you're here, smiley face or something,
Mhm.
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, you're right. That is what it says.
Yeah, so I guess like the bigger ones, like
Yeah.
they figure who they are. I guess
I'm late to the
uh,
party.
he's got like I said, he does have a beautiful voice, and his songs, a lot of them are like a very good tone to him. He kind of reminds me of, and not, I just want to go more on the countryside. He kind of gives me some like Sam Hunt vibes, but not quite like in the whole like talking, singing type thing that Sam Hunt does. But there's like some simple like Sam Hunt vibes for me.
I don't see that.
You don't see that?
No.
Maybe I'm alone. Listen to more songs. Well, I already have kind of brought up all the songs that
Yeah.
you already got yours out. So what do you all have that you have wrote down that you haven't got to share
Is there
yet?
anything else?
The only one that I have written down was Seen What I've Seen, and that's by Seth Carpenter.
I know you'd pick that one.
I knew she would pick that one too.
Yeah. That one
You did.
is
How
your
did y'all
sound.
know?
Yeah. Let's see.
You want me to go over it or no?
Yeah, go ahead and share.
Well, I just really liked that one. Of course, I like the sounds. It's kind of my vibe, but what really kind of drew me into it was growing up in Christianity, of course, is wonderful, and I'm so thankful for that. But there was a part of part of the song that talks about, knowing like what religion is versus having a relationship with Christ. And growing up in it, of course, I knew who Jesus was, and I got saved at a very young age. Like it was truly saved. But of course, as I grew up, went through high school, was making choices I shouldn't have made, I kept falling back to religion. But it wasn't religion that, truly changed my life. It was whenever I had like that radical encounter with Jesus. And to me, that song kind of brought me to that place. So I like that one.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I had one more. This song didn't necessarily it didn't like speak to me like, other songs. I think the sound was what kind of got me. It was Identity Theft by Mr. Weaverface.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody mentioned that.
I don't remember.
If not,
Yeah.
I was gonna be, if you haven't, look him up on Instagram, dude. I love his videos. Like he's sitting there, it's just him and the guitar, and he's jamming out, and there's like these colors going behind him and stuff. It's crazy. He looks like he has a great time. But go ahead, Russ. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought it up.
I mean, other than this song, I had never heard of it, but just the sound of it, it's what the sound is what I grew up on, is like the Three Doors Down, the grunge rock bands in the 2000s. That's really his sound, and like that pulled me in when I heard it. Actually, I think we were on our way to Boone yesterday, and we put the playlist on, and that song came on, and I was like, I like this. And then when I was like, turn it off, she don't like it. So I was like, I like that song. And she was like,
everybody has their own, I think
Well, I
taste.
think that I'm going to have to step out of the box because clearly I'm being a little bit too predictable here.
Listen, if you don't share the ones that you like, they might not get that. That.
That's true. Well, see, I kind of the playlist was long again, so I kind of would listen, and if it wasn't immediately speaking to me, I was like, okay, next, because
That's what.
I told him that too. I'm like, Cam, it's
Listen,
so hard.
I just put it out there. Tiny plug here. On Spotify now we have the third hour collection. I should have mentioned that to begin with.
Yeah.
But you can find all the songs that we talked about and the other new songs in the playlist, along with their 1433 hidden gems. So I just like going into Friday, it was like 1:00 in the morning, because I was up.
Yeah, he stayed up pretty much just so he could listen to the new release
and
songs.
so I added him on there like right off. So I just sent it over from that. And kind of, and now that we're not doing the top 5, it was like, okay, just whatever song speaks to you, and wherever God leads you to, I guess, in that way. But I did want to just like also comment on Rusty's. Like I really like Mr. Weaverface. He's a newer artist, I think. He's an older guy, from what I can tell. Like, and he probably grew up listening to all that same music. But I don't know. You just need to go check out his Instagram and stuff. I think he's pretty cool guy. I loved going through his like clips and stuff of his songs.
I'll have to go look him up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look him up on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Mr. Was it Weaverface?
Mr. Weaverface, yeah.
Yep. Identity Theft.
I
So
don't remember that one now, but I don't remember it.
well, that's because you cut it off so quick.
Yeah, she cut it off. She let it play for about a minute.
Yeah, we definitely have. I do like how we have some people though that lean more towards, like, everybody has their own thing. Like, where even though you liked hard rock today, you brought up a skill.
I lean more towards like just full blown worship,
Worship, or like some indie stuff. So does
some
Mariah.
indie, yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we bridge like with the hip hop and rap, and I know like Rusty and Sean rock, and I kind of like that too, and he likes rap. Sean does as well. So we all have a different musical taste and stuff. So before I go into 1433 hidden gem, I do want to mention the songs that did not make the mentions or whatever that we did, that were still new, that you may want to check out. So we still have My Right Now, the acoustic version. Stephen McWhirter is one of my favorite worship artists. Yep. Always Mine by Claire Leslie. Taste and See by Mayor Boss. Peace Be Still by Aaron Schust. We had High Tower by House of Purpose. That's also another great one. I almost had that in my list. Closer by Isley. I don't know. It's ISLY.
Yeah.
I don't. It may just be said like that. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
that it's
know.
actually like spoken out altogether. But I Surrender All by Love and the Outcome. Deep Down Low by Abby Schuyler. Run 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 by Fresh Life Worship. Come Lord by Last Call. Morning Psalm featuring Ben Cruz. River Valley Worship. That one, actually, Mariah, I'm surprised you didn't pick that one. I thought that would be a song that
Sorry,
you would.
which one was that?
It was Morning Psalm with Ben Cruz by River Valley Worship.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, I actually thought whenever I heard that, I was like, I bet Mariah's going to have that one on there. But Wake Up the Wonder by Austin Ludwig. Where You Wanted by Savannah Locke and Crossroads Music. The Mercy of God by Still Creek and Dave Aubrey. The Greatest Victory, Mac Brock. Amazing Grace, Mary Cruz's version on the GBA stage. Honor by Kirby Capel. Simple Pursuit by John Long and Justin Rizzo. And that concludes all their songs for this week of the new Christian music. I just want to say, as we kind of take what we've already discussed and the things that have been shared, and as we move on into like the hidden gem and into our discussion, I just kind of want to take a step or a stop and for a second and say thank you to Chels for sharing your hidden gem and the story behind it last week. Um, she was feeling a little like she was second guessing it, just sharing her heart and stuff a little bit, and I think that it really impacted a lot of people. I know you don't think of yourself in that way, like when you
Mm.
speak, and you just downplay it. But we've had several people today, like Sean, and I'll speak for him because I'm sure he would have said it on here. Just talked about how your story, like in the heart behind your hidden gem, how it just wrecked him. He said, like, and the song too. Like these songs, guys, when we like do these hidden gems, I think this is going to be a very like special playlist that's kind of being formed because there's songs that you may not have heard before, but the meaning and story behind a lot of them is so deep. I encourage you to go back and if you haven't watched that episode and listen to her share on that song, it's "Don't You Give Up on Me" by Brandon Lake. Definitely go and check that out. I'm super proud of her. Anyway, going over into my hidden gem this week, it's my turn for it. This song's a little bit older. It's like in the early 2000s. It is "What Do I Know of Holy" by Addison Road. I have some Bible verses I wanted to well, a Bible verse I wanted to kinda share with it, but I also want to share just a little bit of the lyrics, 'cause I just think they're beautiful, and a lot of what Mariah said in her discussion of, I think the Seth Carpenter song, kind of being saved, but not really, like, having that experience yet, like, there's another level to it, you know? That's kinda at the heart that I think is in this song, and I'll kinda go through the words here, but she says, "I made you promises 1,000 times. I try to hear from heaven, but I talk the whole time. I think I made you too small. I've never feared you at all. If you touched my face, would I know you? Looked into my eyes, could I behold you?" And as it goes into the second verse, is I guess I thought I'd figured you out. I knew all the stories, and I learned to talk about how you were mighty to save, but those were just empty words on a page. Then I caught a glimpse of who you might be, and the slightest hint of you brought me down to my knees. And the bridge is just beautiful, and it says, well, the chorus, I'll go into the bridge. It says, you know, who spoke me into motion? Where have I even stood but the shore along your ocean? Are you fire? Are you fury? Are you sacred? Are you beautiful? And as it goes into the bridge, it says, what do I know of holy? What do I know of wounds that will heal my shame? And a God who gave life its name. The one who the angels praise, all creation knows your name. And, or earth and heaven above, what do I know of this love? And it really touched me in a lot of the ways, like you were talking about, Mariah. Like, I think, you know, I was saved at a younger age, and as I continued through life, I think that I always just had this preconceived, like, assumption that it was like, well, I punched my ticket, like I said, I believe, and that's it, you know. And I think in a lot of ways, and I'm not one to sit here and say that who's going to get in, who isn't going to get in, or anything like that. But I think a lot of times people just stop at just saying they believe because they think that's all I need to do. And because I've secured my place after this life is over, they don't pursue it any further. And I was that way. And I felt like God was there. And really, in times of like struggle and temptation, or anytime I went through like a loss, I would pray to Him. But how many times was I praying to Him or seeking Him out outside of those hard times? And it wasn't much. And so, in a lot of the ways, like that song says, I was standing at the shores of His ocean. I was really not embracing the fullness of who He was. And there's this verse, and as I was kind of just like kind of looking for a verse to attach to this, I was going to use Isaiah 40 today because I think it paints a good picture. I want to say it's like 12 through 30 in that range, just like how mighty God is. And it was kind of funny because the verses today at church was also, I think, Isaiah 40, 31, or 32. But I kind of started looking around, and just because I wasn't sure that's exactly where I wanted to go with it. And I got to the book of Job and just going through some verses. One of them that I thought was really good and kind of spoke to me, and with the same mindset of the song, and it's 42:5. And it says, "My ears have heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." And, Job had went through a lot of uh, struggles in his life, a lot of hard times, and he was in a place where he was like well, I won't say question, but just wondering why, like why is this happening? Why, and just kind of reaching out to God um, in that way. Whenever he had that moment of like where that verse is, and he says, "I've heard of you, but now I see you. Like I see you now." And it is that difference in having that revelation and that experience with Him, and being in His presence, and knowing that like there's so much more than just like words on a page. Because for me, that's a lot of I mean. And I don't want to say this in a way that's negative, because I don't feel like this now. Of growing up, especially being in the Bible Belt, like you hear about Jesus, you hear about what He did, but how much did I really understand? Like in the bridge, it talks about like, what do I know of wounds that will heal me, will save? And I can't say that in that time period that I could have gave you an answer that was just not something I heard at Sunday school or whatever. Like, and I think it's deeper than that. We sometimes carry around our baggage and the struggles we've had in life, and we carry it around like a huge weight. Like we can't ever get relief from it. But I think when we've went through things like that, and even when we still have things that try to bring us down, we can kind of use that as a moment to reflect on that grace that He's given us. And it keeps us humble to an extent that we're not like, God could probably just like set us free from it right then and there. But I think that sometimes we need that to kind of humble ourselves and to keep us needing Him in the way that we need to be desperate for His grace and for just what He continues to do in our life. So that song was just really special to me. And whenever Sean mentioned doing the hidden gems, I was coming back. I think after being on the phone with him, I was coming back home one evening, and that song, it hit in my head, and I was like, that'd be a pretty good song. When I listened to it, that time when I listened to it, I heard it in a way that I had never heard it before, and it was in this way of knowing that there's somebody out there that may come across this podcast that maybe just listening to it because it's us, like because they know us or something. I don't know. Uh, but for whatever, however they ended up on here, however you guys ended up on here listening to this, you might be in a place to where your faith is just saying, "I believe in Him." Checklist, we're good. My ticket's punched, and you don't go further. And I encourage you to go further, to seek Him, to ask Him to reveal Himself to you. And I love how personal He is. For a long time, I thought, well, we're all His children. Like He loves all of us, and He does. But I took out the personal aspect to it. Like He loves us personally. His plan for us is personal. Um, his healing, just the experience. I think everybody's is personal in a unique way. So I would just encourage anybody that's out there to, if you feel like you're maybe in that space, listen to this song and ask these questions that are brought up in this song. Like, have you made him too small? Have you talked the whole time instead of listening? Have you like do you know what the wounds mean? Like what do they mean to you? What do you truly know of being holy? And I think it's a question that even as believers, I think it's always good to reflect on forward. So that is the 1433 Hidden Gem of the Week. So definitely, guys, go check it out. Go to the Third Hour Collection on Spotify and check out all the other ones as well. That's starting to become a really good playlist. I want to transition over now into our discussion part, and we get to have this together. And I think this is going to be really fun because we kind of had a little bit of this whenever we were coming back from Ohio on the Brand Lake concert. So this is gonna be really fun. I'm excited for it. I think we're gonna grow together. I've got some ideas off each other, and I'm looking forward to hearing like feedback of what people think that could also help. So just to kind of set the stage here a little bit, um, we're gonna be talking about intentional faith today. What that means for us as individuals, how can we be intentional in growing our faith, seeking God out, diving into His Word in a time where we're so consumed with work, with the busyness of life, with, we got kids, we got ball games, we got all this going on. How can we make time to give God His due, right? His time in the day. We're also going to transition over from that into relationships. I pray that the conversation we are two couples here, two married couples, that we can have in that may help people out there that are spouses or that just boyfriend and girlfriend, or even maybe they're single and they're looking for a partner. And maybe the things that we can talk about to grow faith together and to put God in the center of their relationship, how that can maybe help somebody out there and help us, like I said, just talking about it. And even in friendships, that's considered, I think, under the relationships like umbrella. That's something that we can even speak briefly on too. And then just to kind of wrap it up, as parents, which we all are, in this time that we live in, it's so difficult. It's so difficult into getting the gospel with to our kids, right? In a certain way. I think we had to find that bridge of not being too pushy on them, making it connect with them, making it fun even. I think there's a way that we can do it that connects with them. And especially when the enemy is like really intentionally trying to damage that, because that damages generations, right? It damages like what God is going to do through their kids, through their kids, and so forth. So there's some like things there too. So it's kind of going to be like a daily practices thing that we can toss around. Maybe some stuff that we do, maybe some stuff that we think about that we can do, and go from there. I know we don't have a whole lot of time. We don't want to go 3 hours. But we'll share some stuff, and this is not as structured. If anybody wants to jump in, like whatever, but we can start it. I can kick it over to Chelsea and let her kickstart it for us, and then we can go from there. And so what we'll start with is, as individuals, being intentional with their faith. So what's some things, Chelsea, that you think when it comes to that?
So for me, it's kind of making sure that I include God in every day in some way, shape, or form. So whether it's in reading a scripture in the morning, or it's praying on my way to work, or it's just taking 5 minutes in the evening just to express some gratitude. I make it a point every single day to include him in my daily routine.
Yeah. How many of us like get those like driving prayers in the morning? Like I feel like those beneficial, and that's the one hinder for some things, I guess, for me not driving that far to work now. I really gotta get my prayer in quick. I feel I know it speeds it up. So that's beautiful. I think being intentional with those days, you said prayer verses in the mornings and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Um, I think that's wonderful. I think something that I try to do with Bo, our son, is I try to every morning, like as we're walking into the school, I have like a little prayer that me and him do together, and I always start, and I don't know where I heard this from, but um, it was like, when you wake up, just say good morning, Jesus. And so whenever we get to the school as we're walking, I always start with saying, good morning, Jesus. And he'll say, good morning, Jesus. And we'll just kind of go over just, some of the basic stuff like ask for protection for the day. We ask for food, give us strength to help us. I would say help with wisdom, but I say to help us be a little smarter because he understands that a little better. We pray that for you and for Braxton, because you're not walking in there with us, but we still keep you in our prayers, and we uh, thank God for everything He's done for us, for the cross, and I always mention, and I always kind of chuckle when I do it. And I think I say it a little bit louder when I say this part, but I'm always like, let's pray that we're kind to our friends, kind to our teachers today. And so hoping that, he takes that mindset into the school day and doesn't terrorize them too much. If his teachers are listening, just know that you are daily in our prayers, whether it be through praying for him or praying for you guys. Um, what's some stuff you guys do?
We go first year. So intentional faith. Every morning I wake up and the first thing that I do, and I think that it's like it's the first thing I think about is just saying thank you, Lord, for waking me up again. I have a lot of anxiety. I deal with a lot of, anxiety issues, but the one thing that always I feel like when I wake up, that should be the first thing I do is thanking God for another day. He gave me breath and he gives me an opportunity to do something else, to spend more time with my kids, go to work, be a husband, thank you for giving me another day being those for my family. Um, I, I read my Bible every single day, but the one thing that I've tried to not allow is it to be a routine thing. Oh, I've got to read my Bible. Oh, I've got to pray because I feel like intentional faith it should be from the heart. It shouldn't be I'm going to read my Bible because I have to read my Bible because I'm serving the Lord. It's I want to read my Bible because I want to know more about Jesus. I'm reading in the Gospels right now, so like that's something that you don't think about is I've got to read my Bible today. Well, I've got to read my Bible today, or do I want to read my Bible today?
Mhm.
So that's something that I've been I won't say wrestling with, but it's something that like definitely comes to mind each day. I don't want to feel like it's a chore because it can be. You know, we get through going through life. We all have things that we're always fumbling with each day. If it's kids sports, you know, going to work, cooking dinner, chores, we always got to try and make time for God. But it's not as much as we got to make time for God, it's we should want to make time for God. So that to me is what intentional faith is. Keeping yourself grounded because you want to know more. You want to have a closer relationship with Jesus and just trying to be the best person you can be each and every day that glorifies Him.
Like it.
Yeah,
That was
good
wonderful.
statement. And I could say, like, of course, I want to preface by saying we are not by any means pros. Like, we're still learning every single day. But I can say that for you, I get like a front row seat of it. And I'm just really proud of you. And I see that. I want you to know I do see that, babe. You're doing a really good job. But I think that's something that I've learned in like dealing with people is like we like naturally and inherently want to do whatever we want to do. Good, bad, whatever. We want to like we want to please ourselves. But something that I've seen like that has helped me is like I actually think that my ADHD brain kind of strives on like thrives more on structure. So I have like made it personally for me before I roll over, like before I do anything in the mornings, is I also say a prayer. So, like, I just thank God, for waking me up again, kind of like what Rusty said. Thank you for, the opportunity to do life again, really. But I took some notes because my brain is just not good at keeping everything in line. But to have that intentional faith, to me, it kind of looks like aligning our habits and our thoughts with God's word. So instead of, me wanting to sometimes before I get on TikTok, make it a goal to like, okay, I'm going to read my Bible. Like, I'm not going to get on TikTok until I read my Bible. And I work from home. So for me, intentional faith kind of looks like I don't really talk to a lot of people because I do work from home. So, like, me and God, sometimes I feel like we just be having full blown conversations like all
Yep.
day long. And sometimes it looks like, Lord, please don't let me yell at this person on the other on the other line of this call. So that's what it kind of looks like to me, just trying to like trying to like put God first. Like before, I put like me making a cup of coffee and Lord knows I need my cup of coffee, but trying to put God first before I do anything else that pleases me.
Yeah. I kinda do I wanna play off that a little bit. During my day, if I find that I am faced with a difficult situation or whatever it could be, I like to like, if I'm struggling in a moment, I always make a m make a purpose to, kind of talk to God and be like, "God, help me see you in this moment." And I find myself doing that every day.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think we've definitely like I think everybody for sharing on that. I think everybody had just like beautiful stuff to share on the stuff that you guys do like daily. I think another thing that I wanted to kind of throw out there, and I can use as a segue into like relationships and the friendships because I think it's a good tool. Um, the Bible app. Like, I think a lot of times, and when I say this, before I get into this, I do think there is like power in reading it out of the book. I do enjoy that, and I think that I do gain something from that for sure. Especially when it comes like if I'm taking notes or something too. But let's be honest, there's some times that like what if we don't get enough time, like in that day we don't get to sit down and have that moment to where we can read and note take and do stuff like that. I think that's ideal. But that doesn't mean if you can't do that, it doesn't mean you still can't like get into his word. And something that I have picked up with like the Bible app, and I used to think like, okay, the Bible app's just like a place to read your Bible. Like, I mean, just and it is, but it's so much more. Like you can do some really great things with it. And what I mean by that is, it can play like an audio book to you. And
Yeah.
like I said, I still feel like I learn more through reading it and note taking.
Yeah.
But if I don't get that in that day, I can still listen to his word. And I
Mhm.
think that's such a great tool for those of you that are out there that like, you're just for whatever reason, like you're having to get up, run out of the house, and you're working until the point that you get home and you need to go to bed because you got to do it again the next day. Like you can turn it on in the car and you can still get that. Sometimes I'll lay down at night, which probably isn't healthy. I have an earbud in sometimes at night and I'll try to listen to like some of the scriptures and stuff and that's usually how I go to sleep. And I think that it's a great tool for relationships. And so I'll segue that into relationships and friendships. And I have done Bible plans. I think me and Rusty had started one before. There's a guy that I know from church right now. Me and him are doing one together. Me and Chelsea got one that we're trying to start together. And it's really cool because it has a devotion with it. There's so many Bible plans out there, but it'll have a devotion with it, and it'll have scripture tied to the devotion because I think obviously you need that. Besides just a standalone devotion, you need to have the scripture linked to it. And then there's a section at the end where you can reflect on what that passage meant to you, or it might be a more direct question, however they want to frame it. But you get that sharing aspect too. So you get to see what the other person said and you all kind of grow together. So I would encourage anybody, if you don't have the Bible app, get it because it's such a great tool. It does not replace the actual, you know, paper copy of the Bible, but it is a great tool to use in this fast-paced world that we live in, and where sometimes we're not always right beside of each other having conversations like this. We can still do like the Bible app and the plans and share that way. And so I would say that's another practice you could probably add in if you don't already have it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with relationships, I want to briefly touch on friendships because I think we're going to touch probably deeper into like the marriage aspect of it. But for me, as far as like friendships and stuff, I think it is so important, and I cannot say it enough, to find you people, especially if you're just starting your journey, or even if you're not, like if you haven't came to the faith yet, like it's always good to like think of your circle and to think, are they pulling you towards light or are they pulling you towards something dark? And they might not even might not even mean to do it. And even outside of our church friend or men's groups and stuff like that, which I'll get into, our friends are still like so dear to us, like, and I love them so much. And so that is in no way like saying that I didn't already have that. We still have that, but when you start walking in like the faith and like walking by faith, I feel like you really need to find you like a small group. Find you a men's group, a women's group. We've been and I'll kick over to Rusty here in a second because I know that me and him are in a men's group together so he can share his perspective. But our good friend Justin that we done the episode with here not a few weeks ago, he spoke on the men's group during the episode. He created that right around like right after I had surrendered my life to Christ, and it was huge in my walk. It still is having that moment, like every like week or a few weeks, or even like in constant communication. Really, like I could message any of them and share a struggle or needing something, whatever, and they would answer. But having those sit down conversations to where you can just be unashamed and just speak freely and build each other up, it's so important to have. And I mean, it's important to have even if you don't have the group, to have like a brother or sister in Christ that you can lean on, that you know that both your like the way that both of you believe are pointed towards Him. Um, it's just something to it. It's powerful. Rusty, I'll kick it over to you because I know you're also part of the men's group, and you kind of touch on friendships and that way.
Yeah. I mean, men's group's been very beneficial to me as someone who, I'm not very social to people I don't know. At first, it was kind of like, I was kind of hiding in my shell a little bit. And as time went on, I found myself feeling a little more open to share my struggles with, the issues that I have. And, there's just something about being able to meet up with those guys and just, pouring your heart out, like the issues that you have, because you know there's just something about it, and there's no judgment. They all, that we're all going through something, and they're not there for a fix. They're not going there to fix your problem. It's just good to be able to have someone to listen. You know, And that's what, has I've found so beneficial because everyone it's judgment free and everyone just they empathize with you. And having people that to go along this journey with you I feel like, could help you from even falling out of your faith. Having you, you've been one of my best friends for as long as, I can remember, just knowing that I can message you whenever. And if I'm having an issue, I can call you up and say, "Hey, this is what I'm struggling with," and that helps. Because if I didn't have that, who knows what could happen? I could just fall back into my old ways, my old habits, and that to me is very, it's very warming to know.
Yeah, and I was sitting here thinking today, um, I was going up to the altar and I was, praying and I kind of had a moment just like of gratitude, really, that to think that we were all there together, like in God's presence, like praising Him and seeking after Him, and that was just something, as like you said, as me and you, we've known each other since. I mean, it's been so long, and to know that we're all like, even like I said, doing this podcast together, but we're all running after him together. I don't know, it's something special about it, and I'm very grateful that God has just worked in all of our lives in a way that He saved us, but He's also worked us together. Like He's led us to do these things together and have conversations together, and I'm just very thankful for that.
It's like a spotter at the gym. That's what I always said.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That's
It's hard to start going to the gym without having that person to kind of, rely on. And when you have that person that goes to the gym with you, and I mean, well, when you and I used to go to the gym, it was we relied on each other. Of course, we worked together, so if we were going together. And you get under the bench, you got somebody there to spot the bar for you. And that's kind of, the analogy for going to church. It's for some people, it's hard to go, just going. But when they have that person to be there and support you, that I feel like it helps a lot.
oh for sure. And I think and I've used this, I think during the first episode, I believe. I'm borrowing some language from Pastor Joey Martin that's out of Jacksonville, but he talked about Matt brothers or Matt friends and talks about the story. Well, the group of friends carried their friend, or I don't think that was their brother. I think it was their friend. But anyway, they carried him to the house and lowered him through the roof to Jesus to be healed. And Jesus talks about how, by the faith, through the faith of your friends, you were saved. And, he ends up, like I said, forgiving him of his sins and then heals him. And I think in that moment, like in that story, like you can see like how powerful your friends like like how much they can build you up, how much they can carry you when you're not when you don't have the strength, right? And so yeah, I just in the same way, like as a spotter, because it's not only that you keep it like that weight from crushing me, but you're also there like, hey, you got it, another rep, and in the same way, it's like you have a bad day, you got it, get to tomorrow. And I think that's great. Chelsea, what do you and Mariah think about, like, just friendships and, building, I should say, growing together in Christ, but using friendship as a way to also, um, use it as a tool to build, like I said, a godly friendship, but also in y'all's walk too.
I think having friends who share the same beliefs as you is it's so important. Because I can't tell you how many times I have texted Mariah and said, "Hey, this is going on. I'm really struggling with this. Can you pray for me?" And I know without a doubt she's going to pray for me. And not only that, but uplift me and encourage me, offer scripture. So I think having those friendships are crucial. to your walk with Christ, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of thinking about a time not so long ago, you know, Chelsea's been a friend that's been there through a lot of like the really hardest times of my life. And she brought me my sweet Rusty too. So thankful for that. But also a time recently when like I was faced with like a really difficult decision, something that was super hard for me, for both of us really to do. And I was thinking about how Chelsea, like, she was just she encouraged me to lean on God in that time. She was like, you pray about it, and we're gonna be praying about it too. I'm gonna be praying about it too. And she did the same thing. She sent me a Bible verse, and when that time came, she was right there alongside with me, walking that. So, and as you were as well. So, yeah, I think that it's really important with your everyday walk to have people that you can lean on and to help grow with you.
And I would say too, and this is something I struggle with, but I'm awful for putting off messages because I'm like, I'll reply to them when I get a chance or whatever. And I'm awful for one day turning into a week, turning into a month. And I hate that I do that. I really do struggle with it. But I think that, I think that going forward, I need to be more intentional in being a light to other people and having Jesus's like light shine through me in a way that if I can't, be in a conversation with them and give them all the answers they want, I can still be present, and I need to do a better job of that. Um, but I want to bridge that over into relationships as far as a couple, and what are some things that we can do to grow together and make our marriage or our relationship into a Christ-centered relationship, but also practices like things that we can do that are I don't want to view it as like chores or anything like that, but like Rusty said before, things that we should want to do. But we do have to be, I think, intentional in this aspect because we can speak on it. Like there could be times that we could go weeks, and it's like, when have we slowed down? When have we like had a conversation, like a faith-based conversation, talking about God or talking about our life? And it's not because we neglect it. It's just life gets crazy. But how can we be more intentional? And I think one thing, and shout out to John and Ingrid, if they're watching this, two great people from our church who have really helped us in our walk.
Just two people we really
Yeah, look
love
up
and
to.
respect and
Um,
just think the world of.
one thing that he told me, and they just have a beautiful marriage, and it's like Christ centered, and they grow and read and like they do it all together. And I pray that we can grow to be closer to that. But one thing that he told me, he said, one thing you can do that's attainable is every night pray together. And I will say that we have not done that every night, and he would probably not be happy with. So
No, we
he, he
always make jokes and say
yeah.
John Harold would not be happy about this.
Yes. So if
Yeah.
he would probably chuckle and agree. But there for a while we were doing it for sure every single night, and
Yeah,
it was good. And it is hard. I say it's hard, but it's probably not. I wouldn't say hard. We're ready to go to bed sometimes, but we should not. It's not. It shouldn't be a roadblock to resting, right? It should help us get into that moment of rest. But there is something powerful about praying with anybody, but praying specifically with your spouse, and each one of you praying over
I was
each
gonna say
other.
praying over each other.
Yeah, there
That's
is
so
this.
powerful. And, I think a lot of times, and I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for you, but I know I have my relationship with God, and sometimes I get so focused on that I don't think about our relationship together with God. And we we actually talked about this last Sunday. We are going to try to be more intentional about our relationship together with him.
Yeah, and I think it also like came in the aftermath of rewatching Fireproof, which is a
Good.
awesome movie. If anybody has, I think everybody has watched it, but if you haven't, check it out. I think it really just does a great job of going through the struggles that a married couple has whenever they're not Christ centered, and
And
the
even if you're
ways.
not struggling it in your marriage, it's an
Yeah,
awesome
and I was gonna
movie to watch.
I was gonna get to that. You know, in that movie, gonna go through a divorce,
Yeah.
and the waves are just kind of crashing in on them, and then well, you watch the movie, but they go through the process of regaining. Well, I wouldn't even say regaining, finding something new in their relationship, and that is like having Christ at the center. But for us, you're right. Like it doesn't have to be that we're ready to like split up or something before we do it. Now we decided that we want to do something like that now to grow stronger together. And I shared it with you, and I'll share it with everybody here too, that I have like just mountains of things. I feel like I don't talk about it a lot, so people don't really know, and I won't go into detail about it, but I have like mountains of things that I have recently. I feel like I have to do this, I have to do this, and like my heart is being tugged different places, and I'm not ready to cut any of them off. Like they all feel like things that God has led me to. But with that being said, I was like in this place like just like a week ago, I guess, to where I was just like sitting in the dark and just asking God, like, how can I handle this? Like, I cannot do it. Like, I've got too much on my plate. But I feel like you have led me here, God. Like, and I can look back at how you've provided and the the steps that it's taken for me to get to these particular things he's got me in. And I'm like, I don't think that any of them are not. He hasn't led me there, I guess. And so instead of me thinking, I think what he spoke to me, and it was through actually watching that movie, and I shared this with you. I think what he spoke to me was that, yes, you cannot do it alone. And yes, I'm here with you, but you also are married to, like, you are in a holy covenant to where you and your spouse are one. And there is power in that, like power in what we have, that you can be that helper that like I need. And I'm not saying to do any of the stuff for me, but even just being there for counsel or for venting or anything, like there's like strength in that. And I also watched a podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. It's Walk Worthy with Joshua Broom, and he had one of my favorite people to listen to, Josh Howerton, on like a week or so ago, and he talked about marriages and stuff, and he links back to like creation, like in Genesis, how like, and these are not exclusive roles, but one of the roles or the main role of like a man is to like find that purpose, a calling, and to pursue it, kind of like a job, I guess you would say, not necessarily an occupation, but like maybe there's a purpose in your life, and that men are just they just go they go at it, right? And sometimes the other things around that we struggle with, but the woman, like when she was introduced in Genesis, was introduced as the helper, and that's not to say that's a woman's exclusive role. You all are just empowered as much as anybody else. But like I think in that way of thinking, like I've got so much that I feel like I need help with. You, whether it mean through like talking or praying for me, like you were or that, like you were that helper to get me by. And I think that's something that men can do too. But yeah, just I think we are going to try, like you said, to be more intentional and finding ways to grow our relationship stronger through whether it be through small gestures or whatever, but also through getting into the word more. We're trying to do that Bible plan together. We're gonna pray together more. Just stuff like that. But we're both well, I'm a little long winded there. Kick back over to Mariah and Rusty. Just relationships, just marriage and all that good jazz. Like what are some things that you all grow together in?
Right. So I think that something that you're really good at, so with like helping me with this walk and everything is you really are good at keeping me in check. And sometimes I may not take the advice that you say immediately. Usually I've learned that if I'm asking you how I should respond to like a text or something like that, you know, I always take everything to you. So you normally tell me, well, maybe you just shouldn't respond. Well, maybe that text message made me really mad or something, and I wanted to respond. But Rusty's really good about looking at a whole situation with like a really good point of view and like really a God point of view. And he'd be like, well, how do you think Jesus would want you to respond to that message? You know, or something like that. So I think that that's one way that, you know, within our relationship, you've really helped me to grow. And actually, I really want to play off of that, what you guys said about praying together every night, which we don't do every night, but that's something that I think that we should start doing as well is to start praying together and everything like that. And I will say like there's nothing there's to me, at least I won't speak for you, but there's nothing to me like as like I'm never like I'm proud of you always, but like whenever like I'm beside you and praising or when I'm at the altar together, like to me that's just like a special kind of intimacy, you know. So what do you think?
Oh, and I think it's the same way with, when I get out of my way sometimes, or I'm in my way, you check me and you were very good about, you know, talking me out of certain things. So what would Jesus do? You've done that
Mhm.
several times. And then there's days where I'm having a pretty rough day or something. And, you've sent me Bible verses before
Mhm.
and you asked me how my day is.
Mhm.
So that's always, a nice gesture.
Yeah.
Um, I waited this whole time to get weird.
No, it's good. It's good.
But yeah,
Man, what?
yeah, but yeah, you were you do a great job of being a supportive wife.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Sweet.
Thanks for laughing, guys.
No, we were laughing with you, not at you.
Okay, okay. You know, I think that we don't really probably brag on each other to each other enough. So sometimes that, maybe we should. Maybe, we should start, really going specifically and saying, I'm thankful that, you know, maybe, doing that is good because, sometimes whenever we're sitting here and talking about it like this, like, and we get weird, maybe that would get some of that out.
Usually she would be afraid to say something good because she would think my head would go.
Yeah.
It is sometimes hard, and sometimes you don't really you don't even think about like, you can think in
Hmm.
your head, "Wow, he did that, and that was awesome. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. He did that." And then you move on with your day instead of
Yeah.
actually saying, "Hey, Cameron, I'm so thankful that you took the time to pray for me this morning, and that was just so
You don't
great
forget
of
about
you."
the trash. She don't forget about the trash. She don't forget about the trash that accidentally gets walked
Oh yeah.
by anytime we're falling.
That's an important that's important right there, the trash. Never let the trash get too full. But I think there's also like with everything that you guys are saying, um, I think it is good to have those moments to where you are kind of bragging on each other because I think we get into a space where we're um
Comfortable.
well no well in some ways what I was gonna say is we start looking at daily things that we can be thankful for as expectations because I think we all four are blessed to be with spouses that I feel like I'm not trying to like say anything about me, but just we're all like, pretty good people. I think we all are people that strive to have a great relationship together. And it's something that I think sometimes I take for granted certain things that you do because see them now after we've been together so long as like probably expectations. And that's not the way that I shouldn't have it like that, right? I should instead, I mean, you think about it in our walk with God, like I might in some way expect God to get us through, but does that mean that we shouldn't be thankful for it? Does that mean I shouldn't still have a sense of gratitude for Him getting us or waking us up like the next day or whatever it is? And so, in that same way with relationships, like um, fighting the fighting the battle of expecting these things and downplaying what like who you are in a relationship, who you are to me. And so I think the whole like sharing and bragging on each other is good. I do. I think that's great. I think that's a good daily practice to
Yeah.
even humble yourself in front of your partner. And I think that's what God would want. I think that kind of like I said, that brings us together. And I think it's important to know as well that marriage is very important to God. And I've watched some things here recently speaking on, just how Jesus views what's the verses? It's like we should love our spouse the way that Jesus loves the church. So like our relationship, husband and wife, is supposed to resemble that of the bride and the bridegroom and Jesus with the church. And so I mean, it's not just something to say we're married, like we're together, and yeah, we've had some ups and downs. Like that's there's real power to it, and I think that we undersell that a lot of times. So, but I think those are some great practices, some moments of reflection that you and your spouse can do together, some moments of prayer, um, and I think even like taking time when we have the time to sit down, even with just our paper like bag like Bibles and maybe even like walk through certain scripture together and note take together. We haven't done that, but I think that's something we can add into like stuff that we could do going forward. I think that
Yeah.
would be good. Um, and also like this podcast has been great for this as well, and so I'm really thankful that we've had like, the platform to do this. We should do it anyway. I'm very thankful for that. I was going to say even, and I'm not saying that all other movies are bad or anything, but like being in that moment where we watched that movie the other day that had that message in it, it drew us together. And I think there is like something to also like the activities that you do together. Make sure they're like things like places you go, things you watch, like that they breathe life into you and your relationship. And like I said, I'm not someone that's saying like don't watch a Predator movie or something comes out. I'm not saying don't go watch it or anything. Like, I think that you can still do that. It's just, you know, just be wary of there is things out there that would want to distort your view of relationships and your view of each other. So I'm trying to get to. As spouses and as married couple, we are also parents. And that is something that is very dear to all of us. Uh, and one of the things I think for sure, I'm sure I can speak for everybody. I know it's on my heart is like, how can we get the experience that we have with God and with Jesus? Like, how can we get that to our kids and help them, bring them up and knowing like His way, like God's way? Because when they do go out into the world, they will face things, they will fall, they may even go away a little bit, but knowing that we can kind of set them up with the path to come back, it's important. Like it's probably one of the most important things I feel like I think about all the time and I pray about probably almost more than anything. And what are some things that we can do to introduce the gospel into our kids in a time when they are going through life, experiencing friendships, relationships, different age ranges, right? But they got basketball, baseball, football, they got all this stuff. How can we get this to them to where they just gravitate towards, what Jesus has done for us and really appreciate it, and to the point that we don't like shove it down their throat or anything, but lead them there and be examples for them too in what we do. Stuff that I kind of wanted to bring, and we haven't done this as much as what we should, but I think we've talked about several times sitting down and eating together, and we don't do that a lot. Like we will all eat separately. It feels like watching a movie or on our phone or in his room and stuff like that. But I've talked about this before, and I know it's really hard sometimes to sit down and do that. But I thought about it not long ago. I was like, our moment that we thank God for food during dinner time might be the only time that they get to hear about God that whole day. And that's, and now granted, like I'd love to say that, like sometimes we get to have some like sit down conversations and stuff, but we don't always. Like it's, like I said, with ball and basketball, baseball, stuff like that. But if we can somehow get to where we can sit down, even if it's just to have a prayer to thank him for our food, and even if we don't get to sit down and eat and we branch off, maybe we can still have that. That might be what he hears that day, and it starts something going forward that he's able to be like, I need to be thankful for what I have. But I think being a couple that's pointed to God too is also a witness to them because they can see how happy mommy and daddy are, and then that is a way that is a witnessing moment to them. I think that music, like we talked about it, and I know that I won't get in because it's kind of your thing, like you all shared with your kids singing some Forrest Frank, but I'll let y'all talk about that here in a second. But like our kids, like Braxton last year was at the KB concert, just jumping up and down. Like there's like Christian or Christianity is not boring. I think that we get people get this like misconception, like it's all rules and it's all suits and ties, and I'm not saying that dressing nice is fine, but it's like that we're just supposed to be boring people and live a super limited life, and that's not it at all. I think that, like I said, I think through like music, even like they're able to go and like Winter Jam. We talked about it. We had that episode about it, and they dropped the announcement here this coming week on who's going to be there. That's a great concert to take kids to. It's affordable, and even if you don't do the $10 get-in thing and you want to do like the Jam Nation, it's still like $50, $60 or whatever. It is well worth every penny. Like I promise you, like it was an amazing experience for Ayers last year, for him to go and to see that and to see people praising God, but jumping up and down for God, jamming out, rocking out, rap, whatever it was. Like it was something. It was different, but it was still all to him, right? And so those are just some things, and I know how to kind of
Yeah.
ramble a little bit, but
What are some things that you all do to be intentional with your kids?
Like Cameron said, music is a big one for us, but here recently, the kids, like in our morning routine, I have taken away, like, we're not doing TV, we're not doing iPads because we kind of get off task very easily when we have all of those things. So during breakfast, when they're eating, Mason has been asking for a Bible story in place of that. So, and sometimes that is me pulling out the Bible app. Sometimes that's me pulling out my Bible, or sometimes that's me, like, honestly, this is not my go-to, but going into Chat GPT and it's like, help me tell my kids the story of something like that, in a way that's like exciting, to something that's going to appeal to them, but it's also quick and gets us out the door. So my son has created a playlist that we listen to every single morning. It's mostly Forrest Frank. So music is definitely something we've tried to like pull them out of like the rap of the world and kind of like putting on a highlight that, hey, we have this music too that's talking about Jesus. And I think that that's something that's been really big for the kids. And then, sorry, babe, mornings are kind of my thing. That when you're not, because you're not normally home for super long. But then also, when we get to the school and they're getting out, it's something like every single day that I tell them is I used to always say, let somebody see Jesus in you every single day when they would get out of the car. But now I've kind of shifted that and I'm like, hey, you know what? Like instead of let someone see Jesus in you, how about you tell somebody about Jesus today? So now every day that they get out, I'm like, hey, tell somebody about Jesus today. And actually, Mason, I'm so proud of him. He was drawing a picture. I wish that I'd left it sitting out, but he drew a picture of like three crosses. Or I'm so sorry. Actually, his friend saw Mason writing some Bible verses, and his friend started drawing crosses with him. And, so I'm like, see, Mason, like maybe you didn't even say anything to him, but he saw you and you were able to be a witness that otherwise this kid may not have ever seen before. So and when we do see those things, I really try to like brag on them when I see them maybe being a witness, something like that. And then of course I'll let you take the rest of it because I feel like I'm taking it away.
Yeah, I always, before I walk out in the mornings, the kids are usually awake. Maybe not Ella, always.
Yeah.
But I always tell Mason to tell someone about Jesus today.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing is, and we've probably done this. I don't know how long we've been doing this.
Yeah.
We just started one day, and I'll go and pray to Mason when we go to bed. Whenever we'll pray, I'll pray with Mason, and then I'll go pray with Ella, which we also read Ella 14 books a night too. So,
Yeah.
but whenever we're done, reading literally every book in the library we pray. And Mariah would pray with her, and then I also pray with her. So Mason's getting 2 prayers, Ella's getting 2 prayers. So
Yeah.
those are the biggest things. And then Mason has a is it, I think Psalms and Proverbs.
Yeah.
Or it's like a little
devotional book.
devotional book.
Yeah.
And I've caught him reading that as well. So that's something, we know that, there's so many bad things out there that they're going to be exposed to. But it's the little things that we plant, the little seeds that we plant in their heads that, is going to blossom, and we see it blossoming.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking that's something we try to pray at night too.
Yeah, we
And
have a prayer that Bowen says every night, and then we always we ask him, "Who do you want to pray for?"
Mhm.
And then we let him have free reign over it. He will start
Mhm.
naming off people. And then sometimes he'll say, "Mommy, help me," and then
Yeah.
I'll start naming people, but he'll always say them. And then Braxton, I try really hard to go in there and pray with him before he goes to bed too. So
I kind of chuckle sometimes. Bo will start listing the names, and I think he just does it not with the
yeah,
intention like I'm thinking, but when he says like daddy, and then he'll go like mommy, da 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 da, daddy. Yeah, I get like 2 of them. Like, I definitely needed 2 tonight. Thank you for that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And you mentioned like morning routine, like with the Bible app and stuff like that sometimes. Bo's got to where, and he's 4, so he's younger, and I mean, really from like 4, I think even through like almost up to like probably to Braxton's age and Mason's age. But the Bible app has a kids Bible app, and you go through different stories, and like they're interactive and stuff. I mean, like he loves the interactive side of things. You can like you know like poke a bird or something and it'll fly. I mean, just like being hands on, and then it always
Mhm.
has like an activity that goes with it, whether it's like coloring a page or doing a puzzle. But I thought that was really cool for him to
Yeah.
be able to dive into like the word that way. And a lot of times I'll learn like some stuff like going
Yeah.
through that with him. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely like tools and stuff out there. Another thing that's just wonderful, and that is uh, Angel Studios, that they did that movie. What was it last year?
King of
talking
Kings.
about Sketch
Not
or
Sketch, but well, they do a lot of movies that are
King of Kings.
clean, like movies. King of Kings, that's what it was. That movie they got released. Was it Charles Dickens that he had that script wrote, and they turned it into a movie? He loves that movie, and I thought that was just wonderful for kids. Angel Studios also does I think it's a house, is it House of David, I believe. It's not the
Young
live
David,
action one, it's the cartoon David
young
movie.
David. Yeah,
Yeah,
and they've got the
or Young
David
David,
movie.
that's what it is. So House of David is the Amazon David
Yeah.
movie, which is I like it too. But the Young David is like a cartoon based thing, and the first season is all like 20-minute, might not even 20-minute long episodes. They're like maybe like 6 or 7 minute long episodes. They're really short, but Bo like latched onto that. He loved watching it, and now they're going to do a movie here in December of the Young David. So
Phil
that's
Whitman
pretty cool.
Phil Whitman is voicing David in
Yeah,
that also. So
yeah, I ain't told you
I didn't know
that
that.
yet. Yeah, he'll be the adult David
Oh, cool.
in it. Phil will. So musical reference too,
Mm.
courtesy of Rusty there. But yeah, so there's things even out there like you can watch like movies and shows and stuff that are good too. And if you like some of those, you could also have a little throwback and have like Veggie Tales on. I'm sure some of those
Yes.
Yeah.
remember that.
Bo loves Veggie
So
Tales.
there's actually the guy. It comes up on my socials all the time. A guy that did the voice for, was it the asparagus or whatever?
Yeah.
The one that didn't have like arms, like he does one now that's like a squirrel.
Oh, I seen that.
Broccoli. Yeah.
It's broccoli, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
maybe.
know. Yeah.
I can't remember their name, but the guy that voices it does one now. It's another cartoon. I can't. It's like two squirrels or something. I can't remember what it's called. I had to think about it. But my point is that there's like some TV shows and stuff out there too. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Another thing I do this with Braxton is I encourage him when I'm driving him to school in the mornings. I will say, "Okay, bud, what question do you have? Give me a question about the Bible. Give me a question about Jesus that you have. Ask me something." And that kind of gets his brain turning, and it gives me an opportunity to give him the word. So we do that a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's good.
Because if I don't encourage him to ask questions, he won't. It's
Mhm.
that's not the type of kid he is. He just doesn't
Right.
he doesn't do that. But so I kind of encourage him to ask, and he'll sit and think, and he'll ask, and it opens up for a conversation. So
Yeah. Well, I think if you guys are satisfied with closing it up for tonight,
yeah.
we, some of us, I'm super thankful for the conversation we're able to have tonight. I thank God for just being with us tonight. I think that the conversations we had will help us grow, be more accountable to one another, to help with our kids as individuals grow, and overall, just like to circle it back, have intentional faith in all aspects of our life. I think that what's the verse that talks about how you want to do everything like through Christ, right, to bring Him glory, and I think that when somebody looks at us, they should be able to look at us and see that, you know, in our own walk that we're striving to find Him, to grow with Him. In our marriage, we are a Christ-centered marriage, and because of that, like some of the fruits that come off of that is the bond that we have together, the ability to weather storms, and in a way that was stronger than it ever was before we met, and before we gave our life to Jesus. And then in our families, that our kids may be the light, like they may have conversations like Mariah had said at school, to be a light in their school, and that we are able to kind of pass that down to them. We have to be intentional in all these things, because if we're not, the devil is for sure going to be intentional in trying to steer us away, steer our kids away, or trying to ruin our marriage. So I just think that's a super great conversation to have, and it's one that, I mean, we could have again later on, or even just outside the podcast. I think it's always great to bounce around ideas and to reflect with one another. The guys that are, you know, anybody that's listening out there and listens to this episode, share in the comments some of the things that you do, because there's things that I know that we haven't mentioned that are practices that you have in your household, either just you yourself or in a marriage or with your kids. Please share them in the comments, reach out to us, however you want to do it. because I would love to know. I just think that it's always great to just hear different people's perspectives and the things that you guys do, because I'm always eager to find new ways to do it, right? So reach out to us. Just do the liking, the subscribing, and the sharing, like I try to mention. Stay tuned for this week. Winter Jam's dropping. We'll put that stuff out there. We're going to see Ben Fuller in 2 weeks. We'll talk about that. We'll have a guest next week. We'll figure out who that is. And as far as the music and stuff goes, let us know what you think of the songs, guys. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.